Hey boys and girls, welcome to tonight's video. Tonight we will be reviewing decimals and place value blocks so I can read and understand decimals, and I'll know I have it when I can correctly identify decimals in place value block form. So my first example here, my thousands block is representing my one whole, and then I have my blocks underneath that's going to make up my decimal. So the first thing I need to do is set up a chart for myself. I'll leave a space for whole numbers, my decimal, my tenths place, my hundredths place, my thousandths place. I'll put in my numbers underneath to help me out. Now I'm looking. Well, my one whole, that's just my model. This one does not actually count. So I don't have any other thousands block, so there are 0 wholes. I need to start thinking, of my blocks, which one will take 10 to make one whole? Well, I know the one that generally represents 100, this one. 10 of these will make one of these, so those have to be my tenths. So that would give me 1, 2, 3, 3 tenths. I know these ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I were to have 100 of them, that would make a whole big block. So those are going to be my hundredths. And finally, I know I need these little ones. It would take 1,000 of them to make one whole. So those are going to be my thousandths. So then I would read this. I don't necessarily need to say the 0, so I would just say 352 thousandths. If I wanted to write it, it would look like this. So I have it in standard form, and I've also put it in written form. Now we're going to have a couple pause and solve here before I bring back to school problems, so let's go forward into that. Now on this one I've changed it. My flat is representing one whole instead of the big block. So pause this, put it in standard form and in written form. So hopefully you've had some time to solve this, and the first thing I like to do, as always, is set myself up some lines, put in my 1,000 underneath. Now my one whole, I do have holes here, so I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 one wholes. I know that my stick here, it's going to take 10 of these to make one of these, so that is 1/10. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and it takes 100 of those to make one of these, so those are my hundredths, and I do not have any thousandths. So I read this as 8 and 140 thousandths, or I can drop off that 0 and say 8 and 14 hundredths. So in written form, either one will look a little bit like this. They are the same value, whether I have 140 thousandths or 14 hundredths, it's the same thing, but that's what it looks like in written form. Moving forward on this one, I've now changed my stick into being one whole, so you tell me what is the standard form and the written form. Alright, so I'm setting up some lines for myself. One whole is the stick, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 holes. It's going to take 10 of those to make one of these, so those are my tenths. And then I have no hundredths, and I have no thousandths. So this can be read as 4 and 100 thousandths, or I can drop off that 0, and now it could be 4 and 10 hundredths, or I can drop off that 0, and it can be 4 and 1/10. That's what all 3 of them are going to look like, and we know that all 3 of those are equivalent because they're all worth the same thing. They're just said in slightly different ways. And that is going to bring us to our bring back to school problem. Let me explain this. Each one is a different problem. So in this one, the thousands block is representing one whole. In this one, the hundreds flat is one whole, and in this one, the stick is one whole. The circled ones do not count. Those are just telling you what is one whole. For each of these, I want it in standard form and I want it in written form. So I'll be looking for a total of 6 things on your paper when you bring it in tomorrow. And I'll see you in the morning.